Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Romance Rewind Stories. Before we dive into today's incredible story, I have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying these heartwarming tales, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. It's quick, it's free, and it's the best way to support us in bringing you more emotional romance stories. And here's something I'd love to know. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I always enjoy seeing our amazing community from around the world. Oh, and if this story touches your heart, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us grow and reach more people who love these kinds of tales. Now let's get into today's story. Plus-size woman sentenced to work for poor farmer as punishment. He was a secret billionaire. The judge looked down from the bench with barely concealed disdain. Ms. Meadow Sterling, you've been found guilty of vandalism and destruction of property. Given your lack of criminal record, I'm offering an alternative to jail time. 6 months community service on a working farm. You'll report to Hawthorne Ridge Farm in rural Vermont starting Monday. Court dismissed. Meadow Sterling sat in stunned silence as the gavel came down. 6 months. On a farm. She was a 28-year-old marketing executive from Manhattan who'd never touched dirt in her life, whose idea of nature was Central Park, and who was now being sent to manual labor as punishment for spray painting her ex-boyfriend's car after discovering his infidelity. Okay, she'd spray painted 17 cars. In her defense, she'd been very drunk and very angry, and Tyler's entire office parking lot had looked the same in the dark. But 6 months on a farm, that felt like cruel and unusual punishment. What made it worse was the intake coordinator's barely hidden smirk when Meadow arrived for her assignment details. The woman looked her up and down, taking in Meadow's plus-size figure, her designer clothes, her manicured nails, and said with obvious satisfaction, "Hawthorne Ridge is a working farm. Livestock, crops, early mornings. Hope you're ready for manual labor." The implication was clear. You're fat, you're soft, you'll fail. Meadow lifted her chin. "I'll manage." She showed up Monday morning at 5 a.m. as instructed, driving her BMW up a dirt road that seemed to go on forever, until finally reaching a sprawling farm that looked like something from a historical drama. Acres of crops, a massive barn, free-range chickens pecking in the yard, and a farmhouse that was charming but clearly hadn't seen renovation in decades. This was her prison for the next 6 months. A man emerged from the barn, tall, probably late 30s, wearing worn jeans and a flannel shirt with actual dirt stains. He had dark hair that needed cutting, sharp features, and the kind of muscular build that came from actual physical work, not gym memberships. "You must be Meadow Sterling," he said, his voice deep and surprisingly educated for someone she'd assumed would be a rural stereotype. "I'm Granite Hawthorne. Welcome to Hawthorne Ridge." "Hi," Meadow managed, acutely aware of how out of place she looked in her designer jeans and cashmere sweater. "I'm here for community service." "I'm aware." Judge Patterson called ahead. "You'll be working 6 days a week, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. with Sundays off. You'll help with livestock care, crop maintenance, and general farm operations. Questions?" "Just one." "Where's the bathroom?" Granite almost smiled. "Farmhouse. Come on, I'll show you around." The first week was brutal. Meadow had never worked so hard in her life. Feeding chickens, mucking out stalls, hauling feed bags, weeding vegetable gardens, her body screamed in protest every single day. She went home each night to her rented room in the nearby town and collapsed into bed, too exhausted to even eat. But she refused to quit. Every time Granite looked at her like he expected her to give up, she worked harder. When she struggled to lift a feed bag, she figured out leverage instead of strength. When her feet blistered from farm boots, she bought better socks and kept walking. Granite didn't make it easy. He treated her exactly like any other farmhand. No special consideration, no sympathy for her soft city hands or her complete lack of agricultural knowledge. If anything, he seemed to expect her to fail. "You're not built for this kind of work," he said one morning during week 2, watching her struggle with a wheelbarrow full of compost. Meadow's temper flared. "Because I'm fat, you mean? Just say it. Because you're from Manhattan and you've probably never done manual labor in your life. Your weight has nothing to do with capability. Your attitude does." "My attitude? You've been waiting for me to quit since day 1. Because most people sentenced to farm work do quit. City people especially. They last a week, maybe 2, then claim it's too hard and ask the judge to send them to jail instead. But you—" He paused, studying her. "You're still here. That takes guts." Something in his tone made Meadow look at him more carefully. That wasn't contempt in his eyes. It was respect. Grudging, but real. "I don't quit," Meadow said quietly. "My parents taught me that. You start something, you finish it, no matter how hard it gets. Good philosophy. Now finish hauling that compost. The tomatoes need it." By week 3, Meadow's body started adapting. Her muscles stopped screaming quite so loudly. She learned which chickens were friendly and which were homicidal. She could pitch hay without throwing out her back and identify a sick goat by behavior alone. She also started noticing things about Granite that didn't add up. The farm was immaculate, equipment in perfect condition, animals healthy and well cared for, crops thriving. That required money and expertise. Yet Granite lived simply, drove an old truck, and wore clothes that had been mended multiple times. The farmhouse had original hardwood floors and hand-carved details that suggested it had once been quite grand. But most rooms were closed off, furniture covered in sheets. Like Granite only used a fraction of the space. And then there was his education. Granite spoke like someone with serious schooling, proper grammar, sophisticated vocabulary, references to literature and history that seemed incongruous with the rural farmer image. "Did you go to college?" Meadow asked one afternoon during lunch break. They were sitting on hay bales, eating sandwiches, watching the chickens peck around the yard. "Why do you ask?" "Because you quoted Marcus Aurelius yesterday while fixing the tractor. That's not typical farmer conversation." Granite smiled slightly. "I went to Yale, agricultural science and business. Graduated top of my class." "Yale? But you're—" Meadow stopped, realizing how offensive her assumption sounded. "Just a farmer? Yeah, turns out you can have an Ivy League education and still choose to work with your hands. Shocking, I know." "That's not what I meant. Why work this hard if you have that kind of education? You could do anything. I am doing what I want. This farm has been in my family for 6 generations. My great-great-great-grandfather built that house in 1847. I'm not going to be the one who loses it to commercial development or corporate agriculture. This land matters. This work matters. Even if it means living like—" She gestured at his mended clothes, the simple lunch. "I don't have money?" "Meadow, having resources and flaunting them are different things. I live simply because I choose to. Because this farm teaches me what actually matters. Hard work, connection to the land, taking care of living things. Not how much I can spend or how much I can impress people." It was the longest personal conversation they'd had, and something about his quiet conviction moved Meadow deeply. By week 6, something had fundamentally shifted. Meadow no longer felt like a prisoner serving time. She felt like she was learning something valuable. The physical work had changed her body, yes, but more importantly, it had changed her mind. In Manhattan, she'd measured her worth by her salary, her apartment size, her social media following. Here, worth was measured by how well you cared for animals, how healthy your crops grew, how much you could accomplish through honest labor. "You've gotten good at this," Granite observed one morning, watching Meadow efficiently handle the morning feeding routine. "I've had a good teacher, even if he is a demanding perfectionist who makes me redo things 17 times. 18, actually." "You're welcome." Meadow laughed, something she'd been doing more of lately. "Can I ask you something personal? Depends on the question. Why are you alone out here? A Yale graduate who owns this beautiful farm, who's clearly intelligent and... She paused, blushing. And attractive. Why aren't you married with a family? Granite was quiet for a long moment. I was engaged once, 7 years ago. Her name was Caroline. She loved the idea of farm life, the aesthetics, the romance, the Instagram potential. But she hated the reality. The early mornings, the hard work, the smell, the isolation. She left after 6 months, told me I'd have to choose between her and the farm. You chose the farm. I chose honesty. I couldn't pretend to be someone I'm not. Caroline wanted a lifestyle. I wanted a life. Those aren't the same thing. After that, I decided it was easier to stay alone than to keep disappointing people who wanted me to be different. That's sad. That's realistic. Not everyone is built for this life. Most people aren't. I wasn't built for it either, Meadow said quietly. I was a city girl who'd never touched a chicken before, 2 months ago. But I learned. Maybe Caroline would have too if she'd actually tried instead of just quitting. Or maybe she was honest about what she wanted, and that's okay too. Not everyone has to love what I love. True. But Granite, you deserve someone who at least tries, who sees the value in what you're doing here. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Awareness, attraction, possibility. Week 8 brought a crisis. A late spring storm destroyed part of the main barn roof and damaged several crop fields. Granite worked around the clock trying to repair everything, and Meadow worked beside him without being asked. At 2 a.m., covered in mud and exhaustion, they finally stopped for a break. You didn't have to stay, Granite said, handing her a thermos of coffee. Your community service hours were done at 5 p.m. I know, but you needed help, so I stayed. Why? You don't owe me anything beyond the court order. Because this isn't a punishment anymore. It stopped being punishment around week 4 when I realized I actually cared about the chickens and the goats and... She hesitated. And I care about you, Granite. About what you're building here. This isn't just farm work anymore. It's helping someone who matters to me. Granite set down his coffee, moved closer. Meadow, you matter to me too, have for weeks, but I didn't want to say anything because you're technically under court supervision. The power dynamic ends in 2 months when my service is complete. But Granite, I need to tell you something I should have said weeks ago. What? I came here hating myself. I was 30 pounds heavier than I wanted to be, working a job I didn't care about, in a relationship with a man who cheated because he said I let myself go. I spray-painted those cars because I was angry at Tyler. But really, I was angry at myself. For not being thin enough, pretty enough, successful enough, for not being whatever impossible standard I thought I needed to meet. Meadow, let me finish. These 8 weeks on your farm, they've taught me that my body is strong, that I can do hard things, that worth isn't measured in dress size or Instagram likes. You've never once commented on my weight or my body except to teach me proper lifting techniques so I wouldn't hurt myself. You've treated me like a capable person, not a fat woman who needs special consideration or pity. That's changed how I see myself, and I'm grateful. Granite cupped her face gently. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone strong enough to survive 8 weeks of work that breaks most people. Someone smart enough to learn complex skills quickly. Someone kind enough to stay past their required hours to help during a crisis. Someone beautiful, not despite your body, but including it, all of it, every single part of you. I'm falling in love with you, Meadow whispered. I'm already there. Have been since week 5 when you bottle-fed that orphaned lamb at 3 a.m. and cried when we successfully saved it. Meadow, you're not a punishment or an obligation. You're the best thing that's happened to this farm, to me, in years. He kissed her then, gentle and questioning and full of promise. Week 12 arrived, and with it, the end of Meadow's community service. The judge signed off on her completed hours, and officially she was free to leave. Granite drove her back to get her things from the rental room, expecting her to pack everything and return to Manhattan. Instead, she packed one bag. "That's all you're taking?" he asked. "That's all I need. The rest can be shipped later, or donated. I don't need most of it anymore." "Meadow, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't want to go back to Manhattan. I want to stay here, with you, on the farm, if you'll have me." "Have you?" "Meadow, I've been dreading today for weeks. The thought of you leaving—" His voice cracked. "But you have a career, a life in the city. You can't just give that up." "I'm not giving it up. I'm choosing something different, something better. Granite, I've been freelancing remotely for the past month, doing marketing consulting for agricultural businesses. I can work from anywhere with internet, and I'd rather work from here with you, building this life together, than go back to a city that never made me happy." "Now, you're sure? Because this isn't a romance novel, Meadow. This is real farm life, hard winters, early mornings, financial uncertainty. It's not glamorous. I know. I've lived it for 3 months, and I've never been happier. So yes, I'm sure. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing us." Granite pulled her close, kissing her deeply. "Then welcome home." 6 months later, they stood in the renovated farmhouse. Meadow had discovered that Granite wasn't just educated. He was wealthy. Old family money combined with successful agricultural patents had made him worth approximately $4 billion. He lived simply by choice, not necessity. "You're a billionaire," Meadow had said when she'd finally seen his financial statements during their house renovation planning. "A secret billionaire farmer." Surprised. Completely. But also, it explains the Yale education and how you maintain this farm so well. "Granite, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to know you'd stay for me, not my money. When Caroline left, she didn't know about the money either. She left because she hated the work. You stayed because you loved it. That told me everything I needed to know." "I do love it. I love the farm, the work, the life we're building, and I love you, not your bank account." "I know. That's why you're getting this." He handed her a small box. Inside was a simple ring, not a massive diamond, but a beautiful sapphire surrounded by small diamonds in a vintage setting. "It was my grandmother's," Granite said. "She worked this farm beside my grandfather for 60 years. I want you to work it beside me for the next 60. Meadow Sterling, will you marry me?" "Yes, absolutely yes." They married in the summer, in the same barn where they'd first worked together. The ceremony was simple but beautiful. Farm-to-table dinner, flowers from their own gardens, dancing under string lights. During the vows, Granite said, "Meadow, you came here as punishment and became my blessing. You arrived thinking you weren't enough, not thin enough, not perfect enough, not successful enough, but you were always more than enough. You were exactly what I needed. Someone strong, capable, willing to learn, and brave enough to choose a life that doesn't look like success from the outside, but feels like everything from the inside. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for staying." "Thank you," Meadow replied through happy tears, "for teaching me that strength comes in all sizes. That worth isn't measured in pounds or dollars, but in character and courage. Thank you for never treating my body as something to fix or change, but as something capable and powerful. You didn't just give me a second chance after my stupid mistake. You gave me a whole new life, one where I finally feel like enough, like home. Because sometimes what looks like punishment becomes the greatest gift. Sometimes the poor farmer is secretly a billionaire who values authenticity over appearances. And sometimes a woman who society says isn't thin enough discovers she's strong enough, brave enough, and more than enough exactly as she is. That's not a punishment. That's freedom. And that's where our story ends today. What did you think? Did Granite and Meadow's story of finding acceptance and love in unexpected places touch your heart? Let us know in the comments what your favorite moment was. If you enjoyed this story, we have so many more waiting for you. Check out our playlist for more heartwarming romance tales that will make you believe in love all over again. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Your support means everything to us. Until next time, keep believing in love, keep believing in second chances, and remember, the best stories are the ones that remind us we all deserve our happily ever after. See you in the next story.